habits drawn about, so as to co^perate with passion. But this must be asserted of the sensitive power. And thus much concerning the knowledge and ignorance of the incontinent man, and how he may act incontinently, accompanied with knowledge. CHAPTER 4. But whether any one is simply incontinent, or all that are incontinent are partially so, and if there is any one who is simply incontinent, what the things are with which he is conversant, must in the next place be shown by us. That the continent therefore and men of endurance, and the incontinent and effeminate, are conversant with pleasures and pains, is evident. Of those things, however, which produce pleasure, some indeed are necessary, but others, though they are eligible of themselves, yet have excess. But necessaries, indeed, are things which have reference to the body. I mean such things as pertain to food, and the use of venereal pleasures, and such like corporeal concerns, about which we place intemperance and temperance. Other things, however, are not indeed necessary, yet are eligible of themselves. I mean such as victory, honour, wealth, and such like good and delectable things. Those, therefore, who exceed in these contrary to the right reason which is in them, we do not indeed denominate simply incontinent, but with an addition we call them incontinent of riches, of gain, of honour, and of anger, but we do not call them simply incontinent, as being different from those that are so, and denominated from similitude, just as the name of a certain person who was victorious in the Olympic games was Anthropos, i.e. man, for he had as a proper the common name of man, and yet at the same time he was different from man universal, or the species man, as being an individual. As an indication of this, incontinence indeed is blamed not only as an error, but also as a certain vice, either simply or partially. But no one blames those who are incontinent of honour, or gain, &c. as simply bad. With respect, however, to those who are conversant with corporeal enjoyments, with which we say the temperate and intemperate man are conversant, he who without deliberate choice pursues the excesses of delectable, and avoids the excesses of painful things, viz. Hunger and thirst, heat and cold, and every thing pertaining to the touch and the taste, yet contrary to deliberate choice and the reasoning power, is called incontinent. Not with an addition of this or that thing, as of anger, but he is only simply called incontinent. But as an indication of this, those who are conversant with the one are called effeminate, but not those who are conversant with the other. Hence, we arrange the incontinent and intemperate, and also the continent and temperate man, in the same class, but not those who are incontinent of honour, or gain, &c. because they are, in a certain respect, conversant with the same pleasures and pains. Though, however, they are conversant with the same things, yet not after the same manner. For the intemperate, indeed, pursue depraved pleasures from deliberate choice, but the incontinent do not. Hence, we rather call him intemperate, who either not at all desiring, or desiring slightly, pursues excessive pleasures, and avoids moderate pains, than him who pursues the one, and avoids the other in consequence of being influenced by vehement desire. For what would the former character do if he were impelled by robust desire, and suffered violent pain from the want of necessary things? Since, however, of desires and pleasures some rank in the genus of things beautiful and worthy, for of things delectable some are naturally eligible, others are contrary to these, and others have an intermediate subsistence, agreeably to the division we have before made, and these last are, such as riches, gain, victory, and honour. In all these, therefore, and things of the like kind, and in those that have an intermediate subsistence, men are not blamed for being merely influenced by the passions, and for desiring and loving, but for the manner in which they are influenced by them, and for indulging them to excess. Hence, with respect to those who are vanquished by the passions, or pursue any thing naturally beautiful and good, contrary to reason, such as those who pursue honour more than is proper, or are irrationally attached to their parents and children, for these also rank among the number of things that are good, and those who pay attention to these are praised, yet there is at the same time a certain excess even in these things. If any one, like Niobe, contends about them even with the gods, or like Satyrus, who for his attachment to his father was called Philopator, for he appeared through this attachment to be very infatuated. There is, therefore, no depravity, indeed, in these things, for the reason already assigned, because each of these things is naturally eligible of itself, but the excesses of them are bad, and are to be avoided. This, however, is not the case with incontinence, for incontinence is not only to be avoided, but is also among the number of blamable things. But from the similitude of the passion, in speaking about each of these, it is usual to add the term incontinence, just as we say, that a man is a bad physician, or a bad player, whom we should not simply call a bad man. As, therefore, we do not here call these simply bad men, because each of these is not a vice, but similar to vice from analogy, so likewise there, viz. In the immoderate pursuit of honour, gain, &c., those things only are to be considered as incontinence and continence, which are conversant with the same things as temperance and intemperance. But with respect to incontinence in anger, we speak of it from similitude. Hence, also, by making an addition, we say that a man is incontinent of anger, just as we say that he is incontinent of honour or gain. CHAPTER 5. Since, however, some things are naturally delectable, and of these some are simply so, but others to the genera of animals and men, but other things are not naturally delectable, but some things are pleasing in consequence of mutilations, and others are so, partly from custom, and partly from depraved natures, this being the case, similar habits may be perceived in each of these. But by savage habits, I mean such a habit as that of the woman who is said to have cut open the bellies of pregnant women, and to have devoured the fetus. Or such habits as certain savage nations about Pontus are said to possess. For of these, some are delighted to feed on raw, and others on human flesh, and others at banquets feast each other with their own children. Or such a habit as Phalaris is said to have possessed, for he is reported to have eaten his own son. These habits, therefore, are savage. Some of these habits, however, are produced in certain persons from disease and insanity, as was the case with him who immolated and ate his mother, and also with him who ate the liver of his fellow servant. But other savage habits either originate from disease, or from custom, such as evulsions of the hairs, biting the nails, and besides these, eating coals and earth, to which may be added the venereal connexion of males with males. For these habits are produced in some persons by nature, but in others from custom, as being accustomed to them from childhood. No one, therefore, would call those in whom nature is the cause of these habits incontinent, as neither are women called incontinent, because in the venereal connexion they are not active, but passive. And in a similar manner, those are not called incontinent who are in a diseased condition from custom. The possession, therefore, of each of these is something beyond the boundaries of vice, in the same manner as a savage nature. But when possessing these propensities to subdue or be subdued by them, is not simple continence or incontinence, but is only so from similitude, just as he who subsists after this manner with respect to anger is incontinent of this passion, but passion is not to be called incontinent.